I'm joined by Isaac Nicholson, co-founder and CEO of Circular Systems. Thank you so much for joining me, Isaac.
Thanks for having me.
And for anyone who's watching this on YouTube, you are taking this call from where exactly?
Well, I'm actually in my car out in front of my house because we're here in this interesting moment in history where the whole world is homebound. And so, of course, my young daughter inside would love to interrupt the podcast more than anything. So taking it from the car here in this nice little enclosed sound stage.
Well, it's excellent. The sound quality is good, and hopefully the interruptions will be kept to a minimum in that case. But yeah, we are in a very interesting time, as we were talking before we started recording, just with all the coronavirus going on. And I guess the way I typically like to start these conversations is sort of just to get a bigger picture of what it is that Circular Systems is doing. So the question I like to ask is really, what problem are you solving?
Well, we're working in a pretty holistic way to solve some of the biggest problems in the sector that we know, which is textiles and fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it's about creating resource efficiency and moving beyond a goal of zero impact in our industry and moving forward toward a much higher goal of beneficial impact through our manufacturing. And we've really been pushing that narrative or this new really clear goal of regenerative impacts in the space at a high level, and working with a lot of the C-suite of really large companies around the world to put this new goal in place. And that makes zero impact a very important milestone, or maybe a KPI en
Yeah.
route to regenerative impacts. And I think it creates a new clarity of goals that we really need as an industry and as a species to get where we have to go, which is fixing things.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's when you say fixing things, I mean the area that you're focused on specifically is fashion.
Yeah, it is, with a lot of implications into natural systems and industrial systems that extend beyond just fashion, right?
Mm.
The direct tie-in of fashion to the oil industry and into big agriculture and the related GMO and chemical monopolies in those spaces, it can't be understated. So the direct linkage into other really destructive industries that fashion helps propel and has for many decades is part of what we're really looking at.
Yeah, it's interesting because fashion, for some reason, when I first started embarking on my sustainability journey in terms of speaking to uh, who I like to call sustainability champions, I somehow fashion never really crossed my mind as a big kind of culprit in
Mm.
the environment. I guess it just wasn't something it just somehow didn't connect in my
Yeah.
mind. And the more I'm looking into it and the more I'm learning about it, the more I'm realizing actually it's huge. And in some ways, I'm starting to wonder if it's the biggest one, the biggest culprit.
Well, it's arguably number two at least,
Hmm.
right behind the petrochemical industry, and somewhere neck and neck with agriculture, and specifically livestock
Yeah,
agriculture combo,
right.
the way that that's run now. But yeah, it is in the top three for sure impact spaces in the world, and then it does have its direct tie-ins to those other two systems
Right.
and helps perpetuate those impacts as well.
So how do you solve the issue? I mean, what does circular systems do? And you're saying fix the problem. So what are those things look
Yeah,
like?
so we have a set of technologies and services that we're using inside the big doors of the industry, meaning the largest brands and retailers on earth and their mega supply chains, to begin to introduce new forms of natural fiber made from leftover biomass after food crop production,
So what does that mean
or
in
potentially also. Well, in lay terms, that's crop waste, right? That's the stuff that's left in the field after you harvest the food, which is actually 60% of what's grown by weight. And that is generally burned around the world or left to rot in the tropics with the wetter crops.
So what are some of
And
the
this is
examples of
all,
those?
for example, here in North America, we have almost 2 million acres of oilseed flax up around the Canadian border and the prairies on either side of the border.
Hmm.
That is burned every year
2
because
million
it's
acres are burned.
considered not. Yeah, and that's just one crop. It used to be that lots of rice straw, wheat straw, all kinds of other crops were burned, and that's now illegal in California.
Wow.
Um, and so people have taken other terrible measures to begin to till the rice straw back in here in California. The 550,000 acres of rice straw in California is flooded 4 times to soften that straw enough to till it back in the next season, as opposed to burning it, which is what used to happen. And that, of course, is robbing the southern part of the state of a lot of water that's necessary for agriculture. And it's incredibly costly to the environment and to those farmers. And so that's really poor management of what is actually a really valuable raw material stream. It's just that we have the wrong perspective on all this biomass that's left over after food production. We see it as waste. We treat it as such. It becomes all human health and climate impact as a result. And if we shift our perspective and see all this incredible cellulose and fiber and pectin and lignin and all these incredible biochemicals that is the biomass, as an opportunity, as a resource, not a waste stream, then we suddenly realize these massive opportunities, and that's the fundamental difference in our lens, looking at the world from a position that we see as the nexus of a fair, livable, viable place for the future, and making all of our systems design and business decisions through that lens. It's hard to make a decision that would create negative impacts on our lives when you're looking at it that way, and that's what we're doing. And so that's one of the systems which we call the Agraloop, and
Makes
that's
sense.
transforming agricultural waste into high value fiber products, biochemical products, other industrial co-products. This is our most future state technology, but it's been heavily supported by the industry,
Hmm.
truly accelerated. We won the Global Change Award in 2018 for this technology, which is considered kind of like the Nobel Prize of fashion.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was a
Congratulations.
huge honor. Thank you. Yeah, a huge honor. But it literally did propel this technology from concept to scaling over the last 2 years. It was 2 years ago this time that we received the award, and we got a big grant, and that was applied to the technology development and initial scale up to make commercial fiber from oilseed flax and oilseed hemp initially.
Hmm.
And we're moving into a host of other feedstocks, including things like banana and pineapple. We mentioned rice earlier, corn, soy, so many waste streams that are actually incredible value streams.
So I guess
So
it's
the
just
Agraloop, yeah, please.
I guess it's waste to the growers, because for them the valuable part is the actual, I mean, if it's oil seed, it's the seed. Everything else is
Yeah,
basically, there's nothing to
yeah,
it. I guess you can
yeah.
compost it. Maybe that's the best you can do with it. Or like you said, there's probably so much of it you just have to.
It's too much to effectively compost. It's too much to feed to animals.
Yeah.
There's an overabundance of this incredible resource, actually, and just a lack of infrastructure to manage it and productize it is what we see.
Hmm.
So that's what we're actively building with the Agroloop,
So do you
and
create
that's, yeah.
partnerships with the farmers, or how
We
does that?
do. The business model is to engage local stakeholders, the farming co-ops, the regional NGO, maybe local government, and to license our technology there, and really facilitate the, you know, the control and the empowerment of the people in that region with that business. And we become the off-takers of the raw materials with the first right of refusal, and you know, do value-added processing and bring that upstream to the global market. And so it's really as much a distributed economic model and a social movement as it is a regenerative way of making a new natural fiber. The system is designed so that actually we're only creating beneficial effluents. Normally, when you're processing a fiber crop like cotton or even hemp or linen, you're using sodium hydroxide, which is the most prevalent chemical used in industry. It's used in a lot of different ways. It's a really strong alkali. But what you're left over with, if you've handled your wastewater responsibly, is this massive pile of caustic salt that is a big disposal problem. In a lot of places in the world, that wastewater is not even handled responsibly, and it's released back into the environment. And that creates all kinds of terrible chaos in the ecosystem.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we are doing things in a completely different way. We have a proprietary approach that's patent pending, using a biochemical approach where instead of being left with these caustic salts that are a disposal problem, our solid waste is perfect organic fertilizer when we're done. So that goes right back to the farms to build soil, to improve the fertility cycle, to draw down carbon. And so we're not only preventing the carbon through preventing the burning and the rotting, but we're actually creating you know, more carbon in the soil, driving that back into the farms and getting greater abundance in the subsequent harvests as well.
That's amazing. I mean,
So that's why it's that's why it's been so heavily supported. It's a regenerative systems design.
yeah, and that's I mean, that sounds very circular economy to me.
Yeah, this is where circular and regenerative meet up. So really helping foster the sustainable agricultural movement by bringing more income to the farmers for what was once waste, empowering those communities to run their own Agraloop mini mill and create these beneficial effluents, really co-products, as well as a bunch of really valuable fiber products. And yeah, it's been so well received that I can tell you we've got way more demand from here to eternity than we do production capacity.
It's
I
a good
can't wait
problem to have.
until we're over capacity. Yeah, I mean it's literally been called a carbon drawdown machine or a soil building machine. It's been called by the former CFO of Walmart, who now runs the Hong Kong Research Institute of Textiles and Apparel, Edwin Kay, called it the golden chalice of sustainability. So
Wow, what a
I
term is
think he was
that?
referring to the Holy Grail or something in a
Yeah.
less religious way. But
Oh
you know,
man.
he also kind of used that statement to say that it's very far away. It's going to take you guys 10 years to get this done, was said in the same breath. We are beating him by a few years. And it's really nice to see him around at the, you know, these global industry events and say, hey, we're making some progress. I think we're going to get this done in 7 years.
Yeah. That's so
So
cool.
anyway, yeah, we're scaling right now with that technology. We're going to see the first products in market later this year.
Later in 2020.
Yep. And as we roll out into 2021, we're going to see a bunch of different brands launching Agraloop BioFibre in their products.
That's cool. So what that means in terms of like just on a more day-to-day level, that means being able to buy clothes made of Agraloop fibers.
Yeah, yeah. So you'll see hemp biofiber in the market with several famous brands.
Okay.
Yeah, starting off this fall and just increasing throughout 2021.
Oh man, that's so exciting. And does it feel any different in terms of the way it holds? Or I mean, if I'm wearing a like 100% pure biofiber, would I notice?
Yeah, we tend to blend it with organic cotton or safe man-made cellulosics like tencel.
Okay.
Um, it's linen-like. This is a bast fiber right now that we're extracting.
Hmm.
We're just doing that from the food crop version of these crops, which allows the farmers the maximum income. It allows the land the maximum productivity, creating food first, and then taking that resulting waste stream and making the fiber from that, rather than the traditional systems of linen and hemp, which have kept it so niche and so expensive, where you're cutting the crop long before it goes to seed. And that's when the plant is very young and supple, and the fiber can be more easily extracted. The fiber is softer. Once you start to go into flowering, the plant goes through a process called lignification. And that's essentially the sugars in the plant polymerizing and becoming rigid along with the fiber and the stalks to hold up the weight of the flower and the seed,
Got it.
right? And once things are lignified, they become more brittle, more
Hmm.
rigid, and the fiber bundles are literally glued together. And conventional processing and conventional wisdom says that's not going to make good textile fiber. But we've been really proving that to be a fallacy. That's not actually right.
And that's
With the
the
right approach, you can make amazing fiber. That's the Agraloop.
that's so cool. So that's your
Yeah,
technology, is being able to actually use what was once considered unusable.
exactly. And to do it in a regenerative industrial processing way as
Yeah,
well.
that's so
Um,
cool. That's amazing. I can't wait to try it out.
yeah, I mean, when you see it in a product, it's going to be pretty imperceptible for the
Yeah.
most part, unless we really put a lot of that fiber in and we focus on the more coarse fiber varieties to get a visible
Hmm.
fiber in there, which a lot of the brands are wanting, uh, which is kind of ironic because we've spent the last, 10 years with this technology working to make it as fine as possible and invisible in these blends. And now everybody's like, no, we want to see it. We love this
Yeah,
rustic bast fiber look.
it's good marketing
Um,
as well.
yeah, it's cool. I mean, we're happy to go with that suggestion. It's actually even easier for us, but the irony is pretty thick when we've been working so hard to make it so fine and soft, and it's like, no,
Unnoticeable. Yeah.
give us the really noticeable stuff,
Yeah.
actually, is what they're saying.
Something you
So
could have brought to my attention like 5 years ago when we were yeah.
might have sped things up a bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
So the
anyway, a huge opportunity. Yeah,
the
go
Agraloop is
ahead.
one of the things that you're doing. So that's an incredible. It seems like that alone is a huge impact already. What I love is that you're not stopping there at all. You're actually you have other products as well.
Yeah, so the Agraloop is the most future state technology. And thanks to a really huge quantum leap we made over the fall with some new partners in Europe, it's actually now able to hit market at scale much sooner than anticipated.
Hmm.
We shaved maybe 2 years and $20 million off the project this last fall
Wow.
through some really amazing breakthroughs, and really more through partnership and collaboration than anything else,
Hmm.
which is another one of our huge themes in this movement. But yeah, we have other products that are already in market with our Texloop recycled cotton, what we call RCOT, and that is the world's most high grade recycled cotton yarn and fabric system. Again, this is a system designed to achieve qualities that are imperceptible in their difference to conventional goods. So the quality, normally people have this misconception that recycled products are always going to be a lower quality.
Yeah.
And in textiles, that means lots of pilling, the little balls that appear all over your shirt a few days after you buy it. If you get a blended, cotton poly or viscose poly product, that is usually going to happen in a matter of hours. And that's generally been the problem with a lot of recycled materials. They're blending the recycled cotton fibers with recycled polyester staple fiber, and the polyester tends to fall out of those fabrics and create that microfiber pollution in the world. But it also tends to pop out partway and get wrapped up with a little bit of cotton fiber on the end, and that's that pilling that everybody hates. But additionally, the neps, the texture that's unwanted and inconsistent, the yarn strength, which requires running machinery slower for weaving or knitting, which reduces the efficiency, costs more. Nobody likes that. So all of those things that have been really inherent in recycled products historically in the textile space is the convention that we're bucking actively in the market right now by bringing virgin quality product into the market that's truly certified recycled. And so it's that, we have a really strict innovation criteria in the company, and that's part of it. We're not satisfied with lower quality or lower performing products just because they're recycled or organic. So we won't settle for that. We won't release a product that is that. But we also will only, release a system or a product that is massively scalable and affordable, competitively priced raw materials, because if it's not those two things, it just won't have an impact in the world. It has to be big, and it has to be relatively low cost, or the market won't take it up and use it in a meaningful way. So that innovation criteria is what's driven, a pretty strict filter on what we release. That coupled with the fact that it must be truly recycled, it must be truly organic, or at the highest level, it must be regenerative, like the Agraloop BioFibre.
In terms of the going back to the actual recycling element, what exactly is it that you're recycling, or more specifically, where are you getting it from?
Yeah, so we take textile waste from the big cut and sew manufacturers and the big fabric and yarn manufacturers around Asia, China, and Southeast Asia, in the Europe production sector, and here in LA. We carefully sort and make sure that these waste streams are really tightly controlled and authenticated. And that's really how we get the level of quality that we're getting in our Arcot premium products with Texloop. It's really tight sorting, and really it's good in, good out in these types of systems. That's our premium product, but we do have our classic and original products, which are made from more conventional parts of the waste stream, whether that be pre-consumer waste or blended textile waste. Cotton polyester, for example, the biggest category of textile waste in the world. This is largely burned around the world for heat energy to run people's boilers. And yeah, it's insane.
Finally, what is the Orbital hybrid yarn? To me, the name of this sounds so futuristic.
It is pretty futuristic. It's this is a new yarn spinning technology developed by our CTO to take these lower value parts of the textile waste stream, these blended products, cotton polyester, for example, and create higher value, higher performing yarns and fabrics from those lower value inputs. So when we talk about heavily dyed and finished textile waste, most post-consumer waste, um, anything that's a blend. What we're achieving when we recycle that mechanically are much shorter staple fibers than these really premium parts of the waste stream that we focus on for our high-end offerings. And those short fibers create all those problems I described earlier in yarns and fabrics. And they also contribute to this microfiber, which is actually a misnomer. It's fiber fragment pollution that we're seeing now in such mass volumes in our water, air, and general ecosystem. You know, they're finding it in polar bear poop in the Arctic at this point. You know, it's
Crazy.
polyester fragments. So crazy. So when we recycle, we get, you know, very, very short fibers from some parts of the waste stream. And in order to make strong, high-performing yarns that do not pill, the Orbital system was developed. And this is effectively bundling up those fibers more effectively in the spinning process to create a stronger yarn than many of the conventional virgin equivalents, and to create a yarn that hits really high levels on the pilling tests, and, you know, even to control the shedding, the release of these fiber fragments. And so it's really important in our strategy for how we apply the fiber resulting from the Texloop recycling process. You know, this is a really intentional system. If we get longer fibers from better parts of the waste stream, we can put that into conventional ring spinning or open end and create beautiful products. If we get shorter or more blended fiber out of different parts of the waste stream, we can put that in Orbital and still achieve really high value, high performing products.
It sounds like with these three products, I mean, you have basically the ultimate trifecta as far as whatever resource stream comes to you, you're able to do something with it that's productive, that's good for the environment, and basically diverts waste either from the landfill or from being burned or you know, being used in some other negative way because it's just seen as waste. So that's
That's
really
right.
cool. Yeah, that's a really powerful position
Thank you.
to be in.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the result of a long time of working in the textile and fashion system. The three co-founders have all been, you know, we have a cumulative 75 plus years in the space. And each of us for the last 20 plus years has been focused entirely on sustainability in our careers, which is pretty unique. Most people
Yeah.
got into this a few years ago or maybe a decade ago if you're an old schooler. So we've really been, you know, banging our head against the wall of the industry for a long time, until finally the door opened. And, you know, a lot of people were dabbling in this before the last economic downturn in 2008 when Lehman Brothers collapsed. I can tell you I had a bunch of really huge projects that all got scrubbed.
Wow.
And people went really quickly back to the quick and dirty route of production at that time. But what we're experiencing now is radically different. The big brands that we work with in the past few weeks have been doubling down on their commitments with us. And this is a huge departure from what we saw 12 years ago. This, I think, is a new response to what's coming, you know, and really to the market demand. You know, young consumers are demanding this, and the most important consultancies in the world, BCG and McKinsey, have been reporting repeatedly that the industry is doomed if it doesn't become resource efficient. That means resource scarcity and regulatory pressure preventing any growth in the industry by 2030. And, you know, on the way there, the industry will be sliding off a cliff in terms of profitability. They're forecasting a net loss of EBITDA of 4% across the entire space if we don't become resource efficient.
Wow.
And that was before this crisis. This is going to accelerate a lot of that. And what it's doing in our recent experience, just in the last couple of weeks, is it's actually accelerating the bigger players to dive deeper, faster into this movement. So I'm really hopeful that that continues, and that is the MO of industry right now, that we don't run back to these quick and dirty, old school manufacturing solutions.
Yeah.
Um, really, really hopeful that we take this for what it is, which is a massive warning sign from Mother Nature.
To
Yeah.
kind of kickstart the process and get things going. I mean, it must be very encouraging just to see that even in times of crisis, or I guess especially and specifically in times of crisis, actually business is getting better and better for you. I think that's kind of, I mean, just what you said. It's a signal or a sign that people do want to be more conscious of what's going on, and I guess they're realizing that things actually can shut down, and if they do, it can happen very, very quickly. And so we may as
Yeah.
well, or not may as well, we have to be, we must be careful, and we need to think ahead,
Yeah.
because yeah, otherwise it's just it can be really bad.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing that motivation. I hope that it continues. We're definitely not to the bottom of the market collapse or to the peak of this crisis, but we do anticipate coming out the other end of this even more relevant than we were going in,
Yeah.
and we're feeling that already. Not only have we gotten our biggest orders ever in the last couple of weeks from some of the biggest players on earth, but we've also taken down significant investment, including on the day of the first shutdown of the New York Stock Exchange, March 9th, which seems pretty ironic. But if you look at it through the lens of people who have a lot of money to park in different places, they're putting their chips down on what they see as the future in a moment where a lot of the old investments are not looking so good, to say the
Yeah.
least. Um, Yeah, so we take these as really nice indicators of what's going on, and we are really, really hopeful that that will continue. That people won't fall into this mode of despair and fear and reactive behavior and run right back to the worst practices to make some quick profits next quarter, as their mode of rebound. I just don't think that that's economically sustainable, much less sustainable for the habitat. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's where we see it heading. We're pretty hopeful that it will continue.
I'm conscious of time, so I just wanted to one question I like to ask, because you're doing so much with circular systems, and it sounds like you're just getting started, and the best is yet to come. So that's really exciting. On a more kind of day-to-day level, just some inspiration, I suppose. Which what do you do personally to be environmentally friendly, whether you're at home or in the office? Just things that people can do, or that something I could do, just to support the environment.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, really simple, practical things that everybody is aware of. That I could underscore my own behavior is, well, right now I'm sitting in an electric car. Um,
Nice.
I'm really focused on not consuming single-use packaging anymore, or any form of single-use plastics. It's really become a taboo in my family and our local culture, and the culture of our company. Um, Really focused on mindful consumption,
Hmm.
voting with your dollar, buying products that are better quality, even if they're more expensive, because they are either super durable or fully recyclable.
And on that really positive and uplifting note, Isaac, thank you very much for your time. For the people who want to learn more about circular systems and the work you're doing, where can they go to find out more?
Yeah, please go to circular-systems.com. If you just Google circular systems, you'll find us right away. You can find out a lot more there. You can find us on Instagram at Circular Systems, and you'll be finding us in a lot of great retail doors pretty soon. You can see it right now on the Arquette website, Texloop Arcot, in some of their knit tops. You can see it on the Outer Known web retail as well. The Orbital Chino is up there, and some new products launching soon. And then some of the bigger beastly brands out there, H&M and Converse, you'll be seeing a lot coming from them really soon. Right now, the Converse Renew collection is largely our materials. Yeah, so that's the beginnings of what's going to be much bigger programs in the months and years to come.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see the impact that this makes. It sounds like it's going to be absolutely huge. So that's, yeah, really great to hear. We're all rooting for you and can't wait to see your products everywhere. And some of the brands that you just mentioned, if that's just the beginning, then this is going to be huge.
It is just the beginning. And thank you so much for this opportunity. It's an honor to be here and
thank
share
you.
it today.
That's really nice of you to say. Yeah, thank you so much, Isaac. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, give us a 5-star rating. And also, please subscribe, whether on your podcast app or on YouTube. And that way you can be the first to know about new episodes. Thank you very much, and talk to you soon.